Hello all, Ascent Sharpening here. Today on the board we have a Microtech UTX-70, one of their little micro OTF knives they made. We're going to be taking it apart, showing you guys what's inside. Thanks to one of our sponsors, Worksharp, as well as Model and Tool here, who offers these wonderful bits with RZA Tactical bit driver here. This is awesome as well. A lot of times on this stuff, we are going to want to do a few things. We're going to want to heat up the screws with a heat gun if possible. Sometimes because there is Loctite from the factory. As well, with these OTF knives, we are going to want to disengage the action here. Okay, just holding onto the blade so it's kind of loose. There's no springs in there that are going to jump out at us as we get into it. So, without further ado, you can push it in a little bit so it doesn't poke you. All right. So we have the little bit here, and you really want downward pressure on this so you can break that screw. There we go. Got one out. Kind of like to keep them in order. I've learned that after taking apart so many knives, certain ones will have screws that are longer in certain spots. Now, fairly certain this is not one of those, but you just never know. There we go. It's a great bit driver, by the way. There's magnets in here holding these in, and they're removable as well, so yeah, nice and tight. There we go. The last two. Now, like I said, make sure you've unlocked the action here by holding that button while you're firing it closed. Sometimes these are so tightly wound that you need to take the glass breaker off. Not always, but sometimes. But for the sake of the video, we're going to do that. Okay? Take that off there. Put it right there. Take the pocket clip off. Put it right there. And now, when you are removing this, it's very important to hold this button. There's a spring under that button. Okay? So that was released quite nicely. And now you see, I don't know if you can see that here, there's a little spring right inside that button, okay? And for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna leave it in there. But as you can see here, ooh, that's different. So looks like this one never opened up a 70 before here, okay? So looks like the thing that engages with this button is actually a separate part from the rest. Now with these micro knives, it makes sense that, you know, you might have to do some things here. So these buttons go in that groove right there, and it probably only goes in one way, which I would assume is going to be this way, just like so, okay? So you can remove that. Almost need a little pair of tweezers going at this. I'm not going to get up, so I'm just going to use a Q-tip. Okay, so there you go. You got your slide bar here. And this spring, a lot of times these are completely the same on both sides, and sometimes they're not completely the same. Let's take a look. It's okay, it kind of comes off. It's held on by a little thing there. So these, they're different. Yep, the shorter one up here is the one for the front, and the longer one back here is the one for the bottom. Let's put that off to the side. There's your slide bar, the two holes there for that button, which goes at the top, okay? And now as we pull this blade out here, you can give it a little tap, And you'll see that the stop pin here comes right on out. Now the blade can come out freely and we can clean it up, oil it up. You see these little bars here, which I will use the pocket clip for here. You can see they're spring activated. That's what locks it into place after that spring shoots the blade down. I'll show you here. So as this rests in its corresponding channel, you can see that the tab here is pushed up. And down here, kind of pushes it right there. And it'll lock with that piece as well. And these pieces engage with that, and so on and so forth. They're really not, it's definitely genius, but it's not rocket science to figure these things out. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up, and let's see here. When we're oiling it, I like to get all the gunk off of there from the factory, clean out the little hole. So, got a little rim oil here. Put a little bit there, and I just kind of like to rub it in. Just give it a little rub. The channels here, ever so slightly, right there, where the locking pins are, I like to get that. And that should about do it for now on the oil. And usually I like to put this back together before I throw it in the knife. We're getting a little bit of ahead of ourselves here. But yeah, sometimes these like to be a little finicky. They like to pop off. So either way, I have that pre-staged there. Now, when installing these, the way it came out, the logo is on the front, facing up, button over here. And we'll just, I know I grabbed the button here with the spring in it, but I'm holding the spring, okay? There we go, push that tab over so now this can flow. Now we're gonna put the stop pin back in so it can't come out, and there we go. Now remember, we don't want that locked out, okay, or in all the way. We just kind of want to keep it floating like that so we don't have any issues. Now we're going to go this way. Remember, the two holes for the UTX-70 are up top. This little tab right there is going to stop that from going further in. Like I said, they like to pop off. So let's go back. Make sure you get it on the same side here, which will be that way. And then, got to give them credit for making these tiny little knives with such precise machine work. It's pretty awesome. All right, then you kind of want to put it on there like so. And this one is going to be the easier one. There we go. Now, sometimes I will run a little bit of rim oil on that spring. Now, this could make the action a little sluggish, but it definitely still works. Here we go with this again. Isn't that wonderful? All right. Tedious stuff working on these small knives here, okay? Just remember that. This really isn't for somebody without patience, okay? And I can tell you right now, mine ain't that great. But I do enjoy this stuff, so. All right, so we kind of got it in there. Everything's locking up. Don't want to move that around too much now. I'm gonna find this piece, right? And if you look, there's kind of a slant here, a slant. And if you look at this piece here, there's also a little bit of a slant. So I didn't see which way this came off, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that the slant is corresponding, like so. Now this is going to be the trickiest part, okay? So there's a little groove on this side here. And remember, this thing likes to pop off sometimes and, you know, give you a hard time. It's a very small knife, but we're going to put this, sorry about the bird in the background. He's kind of loud. So you see that that is perfectly aligned together now. Now the tricky part is kind of holding this button in place as well as everything else. while you put the top scale back on. Okay, now sometimes it's easier than others, and it went together quite well there. No gap on the sides. I'll pick it up and show it to you. See, there's no gaps. What you don't want is there to be a gap in there anywhere on this line. That's when you got problems. Things may have come loose inside and you got to take it all apart. So now what we want to do is we're going to get this bit back on here, and we're just going to make some screws back into their holes and tighten it down. Now I'm not going to go ahead and tighten it down completely, but what I want to do is get some corresponding screws alternating here to kind of hold this scale on. And they're fairly tight because you don't want any movement, but like I said, we're not going to tighten it completely. And then I'm just going to make sure that the knife is functioning correctly. I'm going to pull this all the way out so you hear a little click. Don't know if you heard that. Very small. And then I'm going to test fire it a couple times, okay? And just in the future, before I forget, if you need to oil this up and you're having a little bit of a hard time with it deploying, pull the knife out like this without disassembling it sometimes and putting a drop of oil right here, okay? And also right here, and that'll help you out with deployment. But this is good to go, and I'm just going to go ahead and screw all this back in. But I guess I'll let you guys watch. Why not? Just makes for a larger video size and larger and longer upload time. But hey, why not? This is what I'm doing this for, so you guys can kind of see. Some of us like this stuff, right? Okay. Gonna get all these frame screws in here first. Man, this RZA Tactical bit driver is quite awesome, I have to say. Very fun, very easy to use. The magnets help. Just make sure that's good there. Back that out a little bit here. There we go. Okay. Yeah. And now the pocket clip. A good way to tell sometimes if you forgot which way, well, obviously it doesn't go over the screws, although some people like that if you're left-handed. But yeah, there's usually a little bit of a wear mark on either side where the pocket clip sits. So if you forget what we said about the side of the screws, then you can just look for those wear patterns. And we'll go ahead and get this started by hand. Switch our bits, and we are pretty much good to go. There you are, the Microtech UTX-85. Sorry, UTX-70. All right, there we go, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like, follow, and subscribe.